Do you ever have one of those days where you've got a big list of things to do? You've got the time to get it done, or probably get most of it done. But the big thing you're lacking is the energy. Your mojo just feels like it has absolutely deserted you. And you're looking at this massive list and thinking, God, how am I ever going to get that stuff done? Well, I'll let you into a small secret. I'm talking to you about this specific subject today because that's exactly where I was about an hour ago. And after a conversation with a business buddy, we were both having this conversation about, the big list, but just really struggling to find the mojo to get cracking with it. So I kind of thought, well, if she feels that way, if I'm feeling that way, I bet you everybody else is feeling that way at some point or other. So it inspired me to think about putting together some tips on how to rediscover your focus and actually get cracking again when it doesn't feel like your mojo is really there for the day. So my very first tip on this is to take the pressure off yourself. I think this often happens because you have got a big list of things to do and you're setting really high expectations for yourself. And you might not even know it consciously, but subconsciously, that pressure is just creating a bit of a weight and a bit of an energy drain that's actually making you feel pretty exhausted. So stop worrying about the 8 million things on your list and just choose one thing to get started with, because actually getting started is the best way to get going and overcome the procrastination and the faffing. So that is tip number 1, take the pressure off. Tip number 2 is to find a way to actually physically to change your energy. And that could mean just getting up from your desk. It might mean popping outside and just getting a bit of fresh air. Might even mean going for a 10-minute walk around the block or something like that. It could be just as simple as going to make a cup of tea. It might be as daft as putting a bit of makeup on or brushing your hair if you're not a makeup person. It might mean changing your top or something like that. But just do something physically that makes you feel slightly different, and that feeling will then translate through to your brain in some way or other to make you feel that little bit more motivated. So tip number 2, find a way to physically change your energy. Tip number 3 is to shift your focus away from the effort and towards the results. So rather than thinking, God, I've got all this stuff to do today, or I really wish I didn't have to do such and such. I don't want to make that call. God, I don't want to make those videos. Or all that kind of stuff about all the things you don't want to do, or the stuff that is feeling, like it wants to drain the life out of you, or just feels too big. Stop thinking about that and just think about the outcome. Think about why you're doing each of those tasks and about how you're going to feel when it's done. Think about the results that each of those things is likely to take you towards. So actually focus on the good stuff and afterwards, and that might just kick in that little bit of inspiration when you can see the result and the finish line's a little bit closer. That might just kickstart you again to get started. Now, if you try all of that stuff, then hopefully you will rediscover at least enough energy to get you back on track and get you working through some of the 8 billion things on your list. As I said earlier, generally speaking, once you get started, then you'll just find that you can overcome that procrastination. It's a bit like having to leap over the first hurdle, and then it just gets easier and easier. However, there will be certain days where the mojo has just vanished. You might have had a really busy week, a really busy month, a really challenging year, who knows. But sometimes the only real way to change that energy is to give yourself the rest of the day off. Now, I know that perhaps as a business coach, that's not the right thing to say, but the simple truth is we all have a finite amount of energy. And if you continually try to work when your energy has vanished, then you will just end up genuinely exhausted and potentially burnt out. It's your own business. You've got the choice about when you work and when you don't work. So don't feel guilty if what you actually need every so often is just to take a few hours off. Either way, hopefully there's something in there that can give you a little bit of inspiration on the days where the inspiration is lacking. Would love to hear back from you with any other tips that you've got for getting your mojo back. And of course, please feel free to share this with anybody else you think would benefit. Thank you.